bought it had to have brakes replaced because they were the garage I took them to basically said, "Where did you buy this?" Because I bought it in Cornwall. And I was living in Bournemouth at the time. And you got from Cornwall to Bournemouth without dying. Okay. And at the time, the place I was living in had underground parking, and it was like every morning I was going out. It was quite a whiff of petrol in this place. Now I was speaking to somebody who just left. Turns out it was the leaking petrol tank, just like a sieve. And they'd only made that petrol tank for that particular model for 1 year, and they changed it for all the other models of the Cavalier estate. So it's like, oh, great. Luckily, the garage got me a second-hand one. But then it was due to be. It turned into what would have been my last caving trip. Except I'd arranged to go. I joined the local caving club. It was like the first trip I was going to be joining the caving club and going up to Wales to go caving. I had a car full of caving gear, and I was just like, yeah, this is going to be a fun weekend. I finished school about 6 o'clock. The car was already ready with stuff. Started driving out to Bournemouth, probably gone about 10 miles, if that. There was this almighty, the performance of the car, I was really struggling to get any acceleration. I was like, oh, God, what's happened here? Then there was this almighty bang. And it was like, oh, now I've got even less acceleration, and the car is making a very loud noise. Basically, the middle box just exploded. I was just like, I didn't have recovery. So I literally crawled back to my home and was just like, oh, God, what am I doing?
I've bought a couple of trucks in very similar states to that. Yeah.
I was just like, then it was just like, I couldn't afford to fix it. So it was just like, okay, I guess I'm going to be taking the train to work and get it scrapped. So some guy came and took it away, got nothing for it. I was lucky because at the time they were basically charging people to take cars away. So I was lucky to find someone that would just take it.
I've ended up having to stick a new battery on mine this week. I mean, I said I've been putting off doing it for the last sort of 6 months, but it's the whole, like the problem of being the parent that's in the house usually, and then when there's the half term, the car just doesn't get used because you're not doing the school run. And it set it off. I think it must have been the Easter holidays, and when we make mine had a look at it, we realised that it was at some point the battery's been replaced, and they've opted for the cheapest possible battery they could find that would just about meet the criteria, because it's got one of those, it's all keyless witchcraft and push button and stop start nonsense and stuff.
Yeah, you need a bigger battery to stop start, don't you? Yeah.
Well, there's like 3 different battery technologies apparently.
Okay.
It had bog standard car battery, whereas it needs like the top end, just like AGM battery,
nickel metal hydride. Yeah.
Some witchcraft. Yeah. So it was. You're looking at the it's like a 70 amp hour battery, and you go, oh, that's not too bad. They're like 60, 70 quid for a cheap and cheerful one, and then you go, all right, let's have a look at what the proper ones are.
Yeah. Factor of 10.
Yeah. It ended up, it wasn't too bad in the end. It was about 130 quid delivered for the battery. Or I could have gone to Quick Fit and picked it up for 230. Just like, Yeah. If there's any diesel mechanics out there listening to this who want to have a chat at any point, I've got a wonderful engine fault that I need to discuss with someone familiar with common rail diesels and Mitsubishis from 2010. But that's another story.
Show it's not a Vitara, otherwise you just ask Al.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't from 2010, you could probably have asked Steve. But yeah.
1810. I picked Jim's brain.
You might
the only car
Jim.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. was talking the other day with scrapping cars. My very first car was a Peugeot 106, the Mark 1, 1.1 litre. It's basically just a biscuit tin with an engine. So I managed to flog that
small
to,
engine.
Yeah, but it was rapid because it was really light. But obviously tiny cars. I sold it to a friend of my cousin's because it was very ready for the scrap heap. It was the speedo cable had gone, and you didn't know how fast or how far you'd gone. Suspension was all completely shot down the driver's side, and a handful of other delightful little interesting quirks, I think we'll call them. But this guy bought it. It was one of those that the scrappy had offered me 50 quid, and this other guy was looking for a car. It's like, here you go, you can have it. And so he turned up with 50 quid in hand and sort of shoehorned himself in because he was big, massive gorilla of a bloke. Not too dissimilar to myself, but made me look quite small, in comparison. And he shoehorns himself in, winds the window down, and just goes, I bet I look like Donkey Kong in this. And then sort of throws the cash at me and then, hoops off into the sunset. Never saw the thing again. But I'm not sure how he got out at the other end. I think he just peeled the car off himself.
Yeah, my first car was an MG Midget. That was my pride and joy, that thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Except it was a delightful shade of, something that you'd find in a child's nappy. It was, it was a horrible brown colour. But yeah, my Uncle Andrew's best part of 7 foot. I think he's about 6'10", without exaggerating too much. And he must be 24 stone, and he still fitted this thing. We had to put the roof down just to get his headroom, but he'd fit in it and drive it quite happily. Yeah, and we took it to one of his off-road weekends because he was the only registered UK fitter for Unimog for a while. Nice. He used to go on all the off-roading weekends and overturn cars and stuff to the extent that they nicknamed him Moose, just because of his sheer size and the fact he likes to flip cars over. And,
by hand.
Yeah. Well, using his Unimog normally, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Although it's been known.
Just checking.
Yeah, but I went travelling for a year and left the car on my dad's driveway, and I just got a text message in the foothills of the Himalayas from Dad saying, "Your car's leaking oil on my drive. It's going in the auction tomorrow."
Oh no!
Yeah, and then next thing I hear, my Uncle Andrew's driven it down to the auction house and doing what he does. He'd taken it 70 mile an hour on the motorway, which is as fast as that thing's ever been. And the wing mirror had rattled off halfway down the A1. It was, yeah. I didn't get much of a win at the auction there.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, I think we got about half what the last MOT had cost me. Yeah, still keeping an eye out for it though. It's still on the road supposedly. So if I ever track it down.
Nice. Probably in some barn somewhere or something.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, some of the MG enthusiasts, I mean, they could be.
They go for good money
pristine.
now.
Yeah, good, back in pristine condition.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have loved to have taken care of it, but I didn't have the cash at the time.
It's always the case, isn't it, with cars, I think. Mm. So a few months, somehow there was saw locally advertised an emergency services show, and my youngest is doing a uniform service course. So I was like, "Oh, perhaps we should go." And we turned up, and it was hadn't realised it basically started out originally as a fire engine show. So there was one ambulance, no police cars, one stand from the specials, the kind of reserve police thing. There was about a dozen, maybe 15 ambulances. There was an armored armored personnel carrier, and that was it. And it was like we walked in, we paid our 10 quid each, whatever it was. Walked in, it was just like into this field. And I went, I was like thinking, can I get a refund on this? I could see that. Yeah, my youngest was like, this doesn't look great.
Dad's done it.
So we thought, well, yeah, we'll have a look. We'll go and have a look. We'll have a look around. And as we're kind of we sort of walking, we hadn't got very far. We could see that right down the very far end of the field, because it wasn't very near. There was kind of sort of displays on the one side where they were kind of literally running. There was one fire engine just going round and round in circles, stopping. A bunch of people would get on, go around in a circle. They'd get off. Somebody else get on. Round. And on the other side, it was just row upon row of fire engines with a few tents and part of people selling kind of vintage fire gear and the like. But we could see that there was this group of people down the fire. I was like, well, there must be something down there. Let's go and have a look down there. So we wandered down, and still, we'd gone. The whole thing was probably only about 300-400 meters. Yeah, not very, very long, this thing. But we went down and still couldn't see anything really. But we could see people walking that way as well. Well, there must be something there. And we go through this sort of farm gate, and there's about 150 classic cars, vintage cars, all kind of lined up, 3 or 4 rows of them.
Nice.
I was just like, ooh. And I sort of turned to my youngest and said, do you want to have a look at them? I was thinking, no, I'm just not going to be interested. I'm very interested in vintage sort of stuff. Yeah, vintage suitcases and bits of little furniture, and has an interest in that sort of stuff. And I thought, not going to be interested. So, let's have a look. And we spent the next 2.5 hours just walking down these cars, back and forth, just sort of looking at them, going, "Oh, that's really nice one, isn't it? Oh, look at that!" And I mean, there were some beautiful cars there, absolutely beautiful. There were a few that needed work, and there were a few that were kind of, why is there a 2010 Ford Focus ST?
I keep getting caught out by that now. Yeah.
But then there was like, there was stuff that was 100 years old plus, and
nice.
Some really nice. Some cars I haven't seen in. I don't go to a lot of these things, but there were a couple of Jensen Interceptors. I was like, you don't see many of those. Well, I don't anyway. I was like, ooh, look at that. There are obviously some clubs there, because there'd be like 10 of something, and then you kind of go a bit further down, there'd be 5 of something else, and they'd all be the sort of the same. And it was just really cool. And we've kind of sort of think, right, should we go see if we can find some food? And we've got one food stand. There's this massive queue. And we're like, should we go home? And we're like, or should we go and have another look at the cars? Yes, go and have a look at the cars. Me, another hour, we're looking at the cars again.
Brilliant.
Like everywhere home. It was just like it was a good afternoon. We came out for lunch, but we went out as long as we planned to be. But it was still, it was like, initially I thought, oh God, this is going to be an awful day. Let's just go straight home. Money's gone, maybe to a good cause. I don't know. And it was like, that was a good day out.
Result.
Nice happy find at least.
Yeah, hopefully we'll go again next year, and we'll look out for other kind of sort of car shows locally. I know there's a pub in the next village, or one of the next villages. We're in the middle of a bunch of villages. So the village to the north of us, there's a pub that once a month does classic car meet. And been there a couple of times, it's right next to a train station. So I've been dropping somebody off the train station. It's like, there'll be like a couple of Aston Martins, varying pedigrees, and a bunch of other Rolls Royce. They'd be just, and sometimes you see them then kind of sort of driving back and forth from it.
It's one of the problems with Harrogate. We've got occasional car meets around here, but they tend to be extremely high-end cars that you just know you're never going to be able to afford. So you rock up and there's always a couple of McLarens and a Ferrari, and it's nice for the kids to drool over, but at the same time you're definitely scared of them touching anything. There
was a McLaren, the first McLaren that came out, so it must be over 20 years ago now, the one that came out with the center seat. Can't remember what the model is.
F1?
There was one of those. That's it, yeah. But then there's somebody
that was
local.
definitely
There's somebody
more than
local
20
who's
years
got
ago.
There's somebody local who's got the. Is it the P1? The newer one?
P1's a new one, yeah.
Literally, and they're driving it around. Yeah, there's a few kind of. There's a premium car dealer in the nearest town, and there's a few cars around about. They're just driving around. I mean, we don't live very far from where Paul Hollywood lives. Saw him at that pub next to the train station once. Yeah, right next to his personal plated Aston Martin. I think it was a Vanquish. But literally, I was just driving past, and one of my family goes, "That's Paul Hollywood." Like a quick glance, it's just like you can see the kind of clearly personal plate. And he sat on a bench, classic pub bench in the kind of outside, right next to it, keeping an eye on it.
I'll stick with my
Already.
Hyundai.
Yeah. Definitely.
I say there was when I lived in Plymouth, there was somebody there had a Aston Martin Vantage, which is one of my favourite cars, and it was the number plate was AND, the 3 digits of my birthday in the correct order. Y.
So it was your car.
It should be, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, none of the keys I had fitted. Yeah, it's like saw that a couple of times. It was lovely. It was kind of graphite black, fantastic. It's just gorgeous. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever get that number plate. Not that I'm into personal number plates.
You don't need a number plate, just the right key.
Yeah.
Or a good locksmith.
Must be one of those laying around somewhere.
The Scouser's key.
Apparently, there's a raft of keyless car thefts locally at the moment. People kind of using signal boosters from keys left in on the sort of by the front door.
That's the thing, isn't it? Is if you mine shouts at me because if you try and lock it or unlock it, and you more than it's supposed to be 700 mil. Is the kind of the range for it. So I've done it before where I've had the key in my coat pocket in my left hand, and I've kind of tried to lock the door with my right, and there's been me and just enough distance, and it shouted at me, and that's only the keys basically at the back door kind of thing. So dread to think the kind of the range that some of the more fancy cars, mine's a shitbox by comparison, but.
Apparently on the Merc, you can on the key fob of the Merc, you can switch it or disable it.
Yeah,
which I think that should become a standard sort of feature.
Yeah, definitely. I know a few people who keep their keys in like tin boxes and stuff.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, I was chatting to a guy in the village. He was talking about how because he's got a Jag. F-Pace, something like that. Yeah, kind of the larger the SUV type. And he picked up an RF pouch or something to go over his fob because somebody told him about it. It's not a good idea. But yeah, tin will do the job.
It is not convinced how well they'd all work, in fairness. But yeah, signal separation is a tricky science.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is a silver foil pouch, which,
Faraday cage. Yeah.
It's quite often more expensive than it needs to be as well.
An old packet of Walker's crisps would probably do the job.
That'd be a good test actually. Just see what you could get away with.
Yeah, or leave your keys in the microwave. Another way. Yeah, and about carry a small microwave oven under your arm.
I know a guy who decided to put his mobile phone in the microwave, He was let's just say he was between medications and got a little bit irate with someone on the phone while making a coffee, and decided to just put his phone in the microwave, put it on defrost for 10 minutes, and go and enjoy his brew.
Oh my word!
He's not a well person.
Yeah, did it catch fire?
No, I think his housemates at the time kind of wandered past, confused as to what he was cooking, and then I kind of took the phone out before anything did go bang. I mean, obviously he needed a new phone after that, but
Yeah. Used to do a demonstration course we used to teach. There was a thing about sort of microwaves and ionization and stuff like that. We used to do some demonstrations. We had an old microwave in the physics department, and we kind of do things like put a CD in there. That's quite a fun one. Or cut a grape in half. Keep a little bit of skin between the two sides.
Works well with a tomato as well.
Yeah, a pencil. Sharpen a pencil at both ends.
Yep.
And then stick it in there.
Watch the arc. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a good one. And
Christmas lights.
But then,
put Christmas lights in there. They all light up.
Yeah, a light bulb. Yeah, or it's just a conventional light bulb in a mug. Stick it in a mug, and a few other sort of things. And then eventually, my head of sort of department, because I wasn't head of department at the time, kind of went, "Not sure we should be doing this." I was like, kind of looked up some of the guidance. It was just like, yeah, we shouldn't be doing this, really. So
maybe let's not show the kids.
The moment you've got to look up guidance, you know you're in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I kept because I then took over as head of department, and I kept the microwave. Don't know if it's still there.
What was left
with the intent to not just bring the things back, but to film it, to actually kind of do it without any kids in the room. Well ventilated. We always did it well ventilated. Yeah, it was like no one likes the smell of burning pencil, but it was just one of those things. Just never got around to doing it. Just sat underneath one of the benches. Yeah, it's probably my successor. Hopefully, has got rid of it. Or two successors actually after me.
Or has come up with a better system for showing the kids.
Yeah, it's got a placard on it. You might have in memoriam.
No, I suspect it's been thrown out. It's just like one of those. There's certain people in kind of education who will kind of walk into like science labs and go, "There's too much stuff," and then get rid of it. And it's just like, and then 2 years down the line or 5 years down the line, there's a change of curriculum, and there's like, you now need to buy these things, and like, we threw those away a couple of years ago.
Yeah. There are too many atoms in this room. Let's get rid of some.
I like demonstrations like that. I like things where it's kind of like there's a little bit of, it's relatively safe. Yeah, ideally you put a safety screen between the young people and the microwave with the plasma arcs and things like that, just in case it were to happen to go bang. Not that it should.
It's all the stuff like lighting magnesium and doing separating water into the hydrogen and oxygen, and then using the splints in each one. And I just love all that kind of
boom.
Yeah. It's like, it makes a noise. We went to like a club type thing called SciTech, and it sort of ran for a week, and you do a load of different random experiments and things. And they got one of the stands for all the tubes and stuff. I forgot all the terminology since doing that. Yeah, lab stands. And basically made like a big array of all the tube holders, and then we're making ice lollies with fridge milkshake and a big flask of liquid nitrogen, just kind of like insta freezing to make everyone the ice lollies. It was amazing. Loads of good fun.
In my first physics lesson, we walked in and the teacher was there with his hand on fire, waving hello to us all. And that, it captures the attention, doesn't it, for that first term? Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I had a fantastic teacher. Yeah.
I've mentioned before about my first physics lesson, or one of the, I don't know if it was exactly the first, but yeah, literally a bit. I mean, not something you do now. Chalky White was his name. Big trough, round trough, probably 6 inches deep. Yeah, with 4 or 5 inches of mercury in it. I mean, the thing must have weighed 20 kilos. But yeah, just seeing some of the demonstrations, and we would just stood around it, and he putting his hands into it, and it's safe to an extent,
to a degree.
Yeah.
Unless he's doing the demo every day. Yeah.
Well, this is it. It's an accumulative poison, and it's the vapors you got to. It's putting your hand in it isn't the problem. Obviously, if you were to inhale it, if you, I mean, it doesn't. It's hydrophobic anyway, so unless you kind of literally inhale it, the vapors are the problem. I mean, that was one of my first. When I was doing my teacher training, one of the first labs sessions we had to do was about lab safety, and the guy in charge had set up a mercury vapor lamp, a trough of mercury, and a screen. And it was just like the only instruction was switch on the lamp and observe the screen. It's like switch on the lamp. Ooh, right. That's why we don't do that one anymore. Yeah, because you can just see all the fumes coming up. It's just like, oh. And then we got given a piece of paper talking about kind of accumulative poison and the vapor being an issue, and etc. etc. It's like, yeah, I'll skip that one in the future. Yeah, it's sealed up. If you do it outside, if you're not doing it every day, say it's
the fun
let's
stuff.
go do these things. Yeah.
I mean, like with all of these, though, it's not so much the you doing it that's the problem. It's the little bit of knowledge that does a lot of damage when someone sees you doing it and goes, "Oh, I know what to do now. I'll have a go as well."
Well, there is that. Yes, there is that. Yeah, there's the do not try this at home. No, really, do not try this at home. Yeah, this will kill you.
Which is teacher speak for, I know one of you will. It's the really dozy one that I hate teaching.
But I was one of those kids that would try things at home as well. Yeah, it's like, I can remember rescuing mercury switches out of old broken fire alarms. That's the bimetallic strips that used to go on the ceiling. It's like,
yeah, I suspect most people here probably had a KISS cookbook at some point. It was it was kind of passed around on USB stick or on floppy at the time for the people I was at school with.
The Anarchist cookbook and the Jolly Roger cookbook, both versions.
My school time was before that, I think. Yeah, basically it was before computers. So
did they not pass that stone tablet around? Or?
Yeah, not quite the same, really. Yeah, it was. More often it was a copy of Razzle or something like that. That was more likely. Somebody found it in their dad's wardrobe.
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear about Anarchist's cookbook until a little bit later. There used to be.
The question would be though: is how many of your lesson plans were adapted from the Anarchist cookbook?
I'm never going to confirm or deny that. There used to be a really good bookshop in Langorse, just outside Brecon. It was called what was it called? I can't remember what its name was, but it was one of these odd little bookshops. It was on a little industrial unit type place, and it only sold books related to things like self-sufficiency, survivalism, military. So if you wanted a copy of kind of the we're talking the kind of the mainstream stuff like the SAS Survival Handbook by Dr. Wiseman. It's still in every bookshop. It was more like kind of if you want the kind of American manual on guerrilla warfare, or how to make your own flintlock rifles. It was stuff like that, and it was this fascinating place to go to and They probably had a copy of it in hardback, but I don't think I ever noticed it. But it literally did have, there'd be like a section on homegrown medical care. You had to set up your own operating theatre. Yeah, it was prepper's delight. Gone now. Though. Last time I was in Langos, was like, I'm going to go and see if it's still there. It was gone.
Oh, I just missed a perfect joke opportunity then by, it was the Sugar Hill Gang, the Prepper's Delight. It doesn't work the same when you've taken that reach 10 minutes after the fact. You got that dad joke kind of sat there burning away.
Yeah, and then the opportunity disappears.
Yeah, but you still got to crack the joke because it's not going to change the reaction anyway.
I don't know if it's still. I mean, the availability of that kind of information now is just so easy. I think it's possibly just sort of spoiled it in some way. I don't know. Not that I've gone looking for that kind of information. You don't need to anymore.
Well, it's like when Mythbusters used to, kind of talk about gunpowder or black powder or any of this kind of stuff, and they would kind of say, "We're not going to tell you we're not going to tell you the ingredients." Then you can just, everyone's connected to the internet and the entire wealth of human existence. 3 finger clicks away. I remember when I used to work for BAE Systems, we'd gone through this, big ITAR briefing about not selling the secrets and things like this, because it was we were working on a kind of a joint venture project with Lockheed Martin and a handful of other things for this. It's the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter jet, the new savior of the military, and this was this big American briefing about resisting temptation and not telling anyone anything that you'd seen or selling the secrets or all of this like properly rammed down your throat for however long the briefing was. And then we all kind of got back to our desks afterwards and what was that plane we were looking at? F-35. All right, here's the full spec on Wikipedia, and a couple of weeks later, I think it was a couple of months later or something, that was the entire operating system was leaked from some American source or something.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just the amount of kind of infiltration of information systems by state actors, shall we say, that have tens of thousands of people just doing that.
Yeah. And if anyone hasn't listened to the Darkness Diaries podcast, as recommended to me by Rasmus of 2/3 Focused, absolutely do so, because it is an eye-opener.
It's a bit scary, really, as well. Actually, sometimes some of it.
I mean, obviously, I work in data nowadays and data wiping, at least. And we actually get our clients now to do a data impact assurance level where they qualify how at risk their data is. And the most at risk is, state actors are looking for our data. That's what we've got to account for. And we're not actually allowed to process anything that level currently, unless the client agrees to it. But yeah, we do a full risk assessment on all clients. Is it a primary school or is it MOD? Would be the straightforward two.
I mean, that's what I was doing this afternoon. Was I've got a handful of platters, just stripping down old drives that are under 500 gig, but I know I've used them, so let's just strip the platters out and do something with them.
That's it. Yeah, make them shiny.
Yeah.
So I used to my first school. I had to teach ICT for a while. And I've mentioned before, I did the first 6 months without even a computer in the room. It's just crazy. But the ICT technician, his office was in the kind of what would have been the prep room for my lab. So he was constantly in and out. So I built up quite a good relationship with him. He was a good chap. I kind of wish I'd kind of got to know him a bit more, because what I did discover, I wasn't really a Whovian at the time, but he'd been involved in making some of the early Daleks, and he had a couple of bits in his room. It's just like, I think back now, kind of my nerdiness with kind of Doctor Who, is just like, oh, I would have been about interested back then. But he would give me bits and bobs, so I'd have just sort of just bits and bobs lying around. I used to keep, and he gave me a couple of hard drives to take apart. And I sort of did that, and I had the Platons hanging up on the side, and I'd have the sort of circuit boards and things, just you can label them and say what they are. And it took a couple of my other classes, non-computing classes, took them ages to work out that I could see when they were about to throw something across the room when I was looking at the wall writing, because there was this Platon right next to it, which acted as a brilliant mirror. But they're just like, we weren't quite up to working out. They just thought I had eyes in the back of my head. It's like, yeah, you'd be like, Michael, put that down. Eyes in the back of my head. I'm a teacher. I know you. Yeah, get on with it.
We had the reverse. We had a history teacher who used to stand at the back of the room with his cane, and if somebody even tried turning around to look for him, he'd smack him on the back of the head with the cane. And he was just a sadist, frankly. But he had the best behaved class in the entire school.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, he was an interesting chap. I'd like to know where he is now. Yeah.
I worked with a guy once. He was ex-Marine. It's going back. He'd been a young Marine during the Falklands. He'd been to school in Corby, a Jesuit school. He was telling me this one day about this. I think it was history or geography teacher they had, and basically he would stand at the door every lesson. They'd obviously have to be kind of queued up outside, single file in silence. And he would tell them to enter. And as each one of them entered, they had to put out the hand. He'd whack them on the hand with a ruler or cane. Every single one of them. Basically, behave or you'll get more of that. I mean, it's just like, I get probably well-behaved class, but it's just like, I mean,
it never quite went to that extreme at our school, but we were still allowed corporal punishment. Yeah, it's a weird environment at times. Yeah, but great fun. I'll do it again tomorrow, but I can't afford to send my kids there. Corporal punishment. I can't remember when it went now. It got stopped. And I left school 88.
I was going to say it's before my time. Before my time.
Yeah, I left school before you were born. Yeah.
I was born in 86.
Yeah. There were definitely a few kids that got corporal punishment, got the cane, both in primary school and sort of secondary school when I was around. And it was kind of like, ooh, it was like, seen as a really bad thing. But the teachers would also give you a clip around the ear. Yeah, that was kind of common then as well. Yeah, or throw things. Yeah, I had a maths teacher that would just kind of, he'd have a little nub of chalk in his hand. And you're right, and then all of a sudden you just like across the room. And if you were unlucky, he'd be aiming for the person behind you and he'd get you.
Yeah. Our biology teacher was a dead shot with a piece of chalk or a board rubber, depending on how bad it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the board rubber go a few times.
Yeah.
Saw a metal bin go once as well.
Wow.
It was a tall one as well. It wasn't like a short little kind of the sort of bins you get everywhere. It was kind of 2.5, 3 feet high, sort of square section, almost like a pedal bin, but there wasn't a lid on it. Not a pedal bin, kind of floppy top bin, swing top. And some lad was Yeah, it was just kind of got thrown across the room.
Just got this vision of Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Barrels flying around the room. Yeah.
Apparently, that teacher got kicked out of teaching about a couple of years after it was kind of where I grew up. There were two junior comprehensives, which were kind of first to third year, or year 7 to 9 in modern parlance. And then there was one senior comprehensive, which was year 10, so sixth form. And I think it was when we started sixth form, there was kind of rumor went round that he'd been kicked out because he'd kind of thrown one too many bins or the like. But one of the PE teachers broke some kid's wrist, throwing him over one of the horses.
Presumably not intentionally, though.
The breaking of the wrist or the throwing over? The throwing over was intentional.
Yeah.
It was just a git.
Our PE teacher used to bribe us with Mars bars. First one to the top of the rope got a Mars bar. Yeah. It worked.
Yeah. One way of doing it.
Although I did move I moved from rugby into cross country purely because cross country, if you were good at it, was a 20-minute games session, and rugby was about 3 hours. So, that's how I ended up running for North Yorkshire.
I was going to say you got the build for cross country.
Yeah, more so than rugby. Yeah, even back then.
Unless you're going to be one of the goalposts.
I was a 6-foot hooker for a little while, but that was after school.
What about when you're playing rugby? Yeah.
I hated PE. But first, in my primary school we never did any. I really do not recall ever in primary school doing any form of sport.
You don't have the same generic thing that they've had since time.
There was those bars. Yeah, the bars. Yeah, we did have those actually. Yeah, we did that. We messed around on those a few times. So we did. Yeah, I don't remember doing anything outside. There must have been something. But then with secondary school, it was just like I was stupidly thin, small, and I had no fitness at all. I was like, fit to read a book. Yeah, I could read books faster than anyone else, but that was about it. And it was just sport, which is horrible. And it literally was a bit of football, kind of in September. Then it would go into the rugby. Then the rugby would last until kind of spring, and then there would be a bit of athletics and track and field, followed by cricket. And there would be, at some point in the year, there would be the school cross country, for which there was no training. There was no kind of, it was just, and then you'd have kind of lessons in the gym, which again was kind of the apparatus a lot of the time. I mean, the school cross country was just horrible if you weren't into sport, because it wasn't the classic I'll run around the rugby field 3 times type thing. It was run across the rugby field, the school rugby field, then past the town training rugby field along a narrow track above a river. So there was a good chance if somebody barged past, you'd push you down into the river. Then past the town rugby field, the proper playing field rather than the training field. Then you headed uphill. This is in the valleys of South Wales. It was just like up and up.
Where it's all uphill.
It didn't go all the way. It didn't go all the way to the top. You only went about halfway up the valley, and then found this sort of Land Rover track type affair, and you had to run along that for another. I think it was about a mile. Yeah, it would have been about 3/4 of a mile, then up for about 1/4 of a mile, then along for about a mile, and then down the hill. Down.
I just have memories of like that same sort of thing of just bog standard normal sort of game sessions, and then once a year it'd be right, okay, it's cross country season, everyone on the bus, and then just go to somewhere we didn't know, and it was a cross country type track with just random teachers at points going, no, through that gap in that hedge there, and you just didn't know where the hell you were or where you were going or how long you were running for, but was just suddenly sprung on you. Now run that way, follow those people. Well, I'm lost in the woods. What am I doing?
Oh, we were just round and round the flood banks in York, all the flood defences. Yeah, and then every sort of 2 miles or so, there'd be a teacher stood at intermittent points, and they'd say, "Right, now run zigzags up and down the face of the flood bank, whilst carrying on in that direction. And if I see you taking too much of a diagonal line, so that you're not going up and down as many times as everybody else, then there'll be hell to pay." It was painful, but it was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all that mattered for us. Because as soon as we'd finished being a boarding school, as soon as we'd finished games on a Wednesday or a Saturday, we were allowed into town afterwards. And,
Oh, nice.
you know, if you could finish sooner, you could get to Games Workshop quicker. That's all that mattered. Yeah. It's good fun.
Nice.
Yeah, one way of looking at it. Yeah.
I think
It's finding that I think schools. I don't know that they're necessarily better now. I think there is more variety in sports that are done in schools. I know that for sure because every school I've worked at has had more variety of sport. Yeah, there are kids. Yeah, because I didn't discover badminton until I was like 16. It started sixth form, and it was just like, we had the option on I think it was a Wednesday afternoon, but we could do it any other free time. We could go down to the local leisure centre and use all their facilities. We could play badminton. We could go to the weights room. So some of us kind of took up weight training. Occasionally we go and play badminton, and then some of us like, actually quite like this I've never played it before. It's like, I quite like this badminton idea. And we used to play it once a week. Of an evening, we'd kind of go and play, and that was I enjoyed that. But I hated all the kind of I was no good at any of the football or without my specs. It was like, throw a ball at me, I'm not going to catch it. Not that I could catch it with my specs on either. Yeah, two left feet. Yeah, it was just so like no one ever passed the ball to me.
That's what St. Peter's were really good for. It was just they made everything sports-wise fun. They did. I'm not a particularly sporty person, but you know, we'd have, as I say, it was a boarding school, so after prep on an evening, we could go and do whatever we wanted and use all the facilities.
Nice.
So we could use the pool. I think 2 nights a week they staffed the pool. The gym was always available. The climbing wall was always available. It just, I even had fencing and juggling lessons at one point.
Amazing.
Yeah, you know, it's
not at the same time out.
Anything that could possibly wear us out, so we were less of a handful. That's essentially what it was. Yeah,
what we said for that.
Yeah.
See, I took up climbing. When I went to university, I carried on climbing. And I can remember once coming home from uni, and my dad had bumped into the head of PE from my senior school, and they had a bit of a conversation. And my dad said, he's really into climbing now and mountain biking and stuff like that. And Peter said, "Are we talking about the same person?" He just couldn't believe that I kind of did his sport. But my last year 10 and 11, I completely got out of games altogether. I had a bit of an issue with my knees every now and again. I think it was just growth plate type thing. Every now and again, I'd be like walking along and my knee would just kind of go, "Oh, no, I'm not going to support you anymore." Bang! Which was a pain when it was on the kind of climbing the stairs. But yeah, that happened a few too many times. So then it was like, managed to use that to get out of sport at school. The only problem was my first in year 8 and 9, I got out of games. I started to do PE, but I got out of games by doing Welsh because it wasn't compulsory at the time. So I managed to drop games. But then in 10 and 11, because I had this knee issue and I kept kind of falling down, it's like, the PE teachers were quite happy to lose me as well. It wasn't like, Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't need you. We don't.
It's a bit like that when I stopped rugby. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay, yeah, you can drop games. You have to take extra English. That's the only place we can fit you in. It's a different set of class. So I ended up doing 4 different Shakespeare plays in 2 years, 2 different regular plays, non-Shakespearean plays, and 2 or 4 novels. It was just like, oh, great. But it did give me more choice when I did my English literature exam.
Yeah.
Oh, nightmare.
Yeah, twice as many English essays.
I mean, that's
small. It was a small price to pay to get out of games.
I could never stand essays, and then I ended up taking economics for A level, which, yeah, I needed shooting after that.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually miss any of the stuff I did at school, but I'd probably go back and give it a go. You know, just knowing what I know now, obviously it would be a piece of piss, but you know, I think just from a personality level, you sort of develop so much that you can kind of tolerate the bullshit. You know.
Yeah. But what would you choose to study now? That'd be a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
If you had to go back and do A levels again, what would you look for? Yeah.
Or even GCSE options. What would your GCSE options be? So you've got to do maths, English language, English literature, and the 3 sciences. You've got to have those. And let's say you go to a good school, so you can pick up to 5. Yeah, some schools you'll get 2 or 3 more options. Average is 3. But let's say you've got, you go to a school where you can pick 5 options. And let's ignore, there's always option problems. There's always kind of, oh, you can't do this and that because the timetable won't allow it. There's always that kind of, ignore that.
Stop that.
So we've got maths, English, and the sciences.
Got to do maths, English, and the sciences. Those are kind of core. Anything else you can choose. So even the language is voluntary.
I think I would probably do a language just to actually push a bit more, because I just avoided them as much as I could, even though we had to do them. I think I'm in a different headspace now. Obviously stuff like DT, doing some sort of tech type thing. I'd probably do IT as well.
Yeah, I'd definitely go with a technology, and I'd definitely go with computer science.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be 2 of mine.
I think realistically, we're just trying to get a more of a formal education on the stuff we've all picked up since school.
A little bit, yeah. I would choose Mandarin though if I had to pick a language nowadays.
That's a really good shout. Yeah,
a lot of schools doing it now. Yeah.
I mean, I did French and German, and it's handy, but it's not actually useful because they all speak better English than we do. So, yeah. I mean, ultimately, Mandarin is probably going to be as useless, but yeah, it would give me an idea of a different culture, I think.
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, even from a tech field point of view, that does open some doors, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the other one would probably be classics, because I did Latin and I did classics, and I really enjoyed both. I don't necessarily need it from a knowledge point of view, but it's different perspective. Yeah.
Actually, that's we had this conversation over dinner last night, I think it was, talking about the benefits of vocabulary, a word-rich households, essentially, and how that is of benefit to young people as they become older. Because our kids did. I can't remember the name of the book. We had a series of books that basically looked at the Latin and Greek roots of many words, and they had kind of workbooks, so they worked through these sort of books, looking at that, and neither of them liked these books, but the benefit that it has given them in terms of kind of being able to understand other words, particularly compared to her youngest, particularly compared to some of her peers, it's just kind of amazing, really. And there's certainly been a little bit of research into kind of suggesting that kind of word-rich environment to grow up in, that kind of the home environment, not necessarily the school, is something that's really, really beneficial to young people then as they progress through their education. Similarly, the kind of the benefits of being read to, and the benefits of being in a house with books. Yeah. These are things that have a net positive effect on young people.
I think that's one of the struggles, isn't it? Is when you're in those kind of formative years of becoming frustrated with being in situations or feeling certain things and not having the vocab to kind of address how you're feeling. I mean, it's the same thing, when you've got young kids who are learning to speak and can utter out a few words of something but can't fully be understood to the best of their abilities. They get grumpy, and the same way we as adults do now. If someone asks us something and we're tired and we can't think of the word right, we get just as grumpy as well.
It explains Mancunians, doesn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
I nearly went for Scousers, but I thought no.
There's a long and rich, wonderful history of the Scousers versus Manx. It's a fair shout.
It's only a matter of time before it's going to be one giant metropolis anyway. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much where Warrington was invented.
Yeah. I think going back to the subjects, I think I'd go for extra science as well. I'd go for the GCSE astronomy. I'm doing GCSE.
Oh,
that's physics with a bigger hat, though, isn't it?
It's extended physics. Yeah.
You're cheating by knowing all the possibilities here, Andy.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also GCSE electronics. That'd be quite a good one too.
That would definitely be one I'd go for.
Yeah.
But that's with my grown-up adult job hat on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's what scratches the nerd itches.
Yeah.
And this is what I do. I mean, it's like. There are so many subjects now that are possible. A lot of schools don't offer all the possible GCSEs and things, just 'cause it's just impossible to timetable.
Yeah.
But there are some very interesting possibilities at GCSE, and it would be nice to kind of explore some of those. I mean, I'd love to. Yeah, if it was easily possible, I'd love to kind of do. To be honest, I probably wouldn't. Yeah, actually, no. Doing GCSE electronics now, I would fly through it because I've done electronics at university and I've done City and Guilds in electronics, but I'm rusty. I don't do enough, so it'd be nice to kind of have that kind of probably do it in a year and just fly through it and produce some goods and just kind of get that impetus. Do the same with computer science, get that impetus, get into coding, but have that kind of commitment to doing a qualification.
I'm tempted to pick up the course books and work through it with my kids in there, as they progress. Just for my own interest as much as anything, but having them there gives me an incentive, and you learn things easier if you're teaching it as well, don't you? So
by far, it's the best way of learning something, by far. So I do that with maths because I taught my kids maths. Because when they got to sort of GCSE maths, I had to give up the work, and so it was just like, okay, I'm going to teach you the GCSE maths because again, been to university, I've done university level maths, and it was nice. The stuff that I'd forgotten. There were changes to the curriculum since I did my maths, and I've taught some maths at school, but it was generally for sort of Key Stage 3 rather than Key Stage 4. But there's crossover, and I'd had discussions with heads of maths about where the physics and the maths relate. So, but yeah, just getting into the nitty gritty of actually sort of GCSE maths, which is actually really good fun. And
they kept all the numbers the same
maths.
though, right?
Yeah, mostly the same order. Yeah, just
Cool.
they use different symbols now. Yeah, rather than kind of 1, 2, V and X. Yeah, had to pick up, and that 0 is really quite useful. Yeah, that was really.
It was a revelation. Yeah.
So it's just lovely to kind of explore, man. And it's quite funny at times. Yeah, particularly with my youngest, I'd be kind of sort of going, "Oh, isn't this really cool? We're doing circle theorems, or we're doing kind of geometric constructions," and it's just like, "This is really cool." It's like, bad.
Yeah, I started nerding out, sort of helping mine with some of the homework and sort of talking about number lines and number theory stuff, and then it went on to bases, and then sort of 15 minutes later I'm scribbling down sort of binary and hexadecimal and stuff like that, and it's just glazed expression. And my wife was like, I think maybe leave it there for tonight. Yeah. Fair point. Yeah. Very clearly, I was having fun, they weren't.
It's definitely one I've had to slow down with at times. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easily done. It's easily done.
It is. But at the same time, there's other ways of them learning it. My eldest is 7 now, and he loves Roblox. It's similar to Minecraft, and he can go out there, and there are certain things within the program that work just like logic gates. He just doesn't know them as logic gates yet, or didn't till I got involved, and now he doesn't care that they're logic gates. Yeah. But he's got lasers set up around his fictional house that he's built, and you walk through a gateway, and a flamethrower will go off and things. It's a nice touch, yeah. But he doesn't realise he's learning it, and that's the beauty of it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
I do feel like we kind of missed out a little bit on that kind of thing.
What passive knowledge?
Yeah.
I think there's some great opportunity, and particularly in kind of some of the extracurricular things. Yeah, like First Lego League is a fantastic thing, and then you've got things like Formula 1 in schools, 4x4 in schools.
Yeah,
some of these kind of big national, international competitions where you kind of do stuff. Yeah, a lot that didn't exist when I was in school. Yeah. You rarely had clubs. Occasionally clubs. And my senior school, we had that's why I started caving, because one of the geography teachers was into caving. So it was like, well, start a caving club, and there was. Actually, there was a climbing club as well. So, I say climbing club. It was go to the local leisure centre where it was the classic 1970s brick built, everything square edged, rip your tendons apart. Climbing, no kind of fancy holds you get nowadays. It was just how to. Yes, you were climbing, but it was probably more akin to kind of parkour than at slow pace, because it was like.
How to carefully scale a tower block. Yeah.
And there was no proper tuition. Like that's why I kind of learnt the art of only climb with somebody who you trust. After some kid called Damien, I got to the top of this chimney. It was a chimney. It was in the corner, so it was like literally the corner, and then there was this concrete chimney which started at about kind of 8 feet. So he climbed up into the chimney, and the chimney went all the way to the top. And it was just the chimney. There were no internal holes. Just bracing yourself back and forth. Yeah, leg at the front, legs, push yourself up, brace against the back, move your feet up, keep going. I loved that. That was just so cool to be able to kind of move up this thing with no finger holds or anything. I got to the top and I shouted down. I said, "You're right. You got me?" He said, "Yeah, I got you." So I let go of it was a scaffolding bar at the top for the ropes to go over. So I let go of the scaffolding bar because I got to the top. He hadn't got me. I think he acquired kind of the block on the when I kind of my heels hit the floor. Luckily, they didn't smash. He put enough of brake
Terrifying.
on it. It was like, oh god, that was like, it put me off. It always put me off climbing. I might even have stopped going to that climbing club until I then started again when I went to university because it was like,
Yeah, I sprained ankle falling off Keswick climbing wall because we must have been about 16, 17, climbing with a friend, and he hadn't got me. Luckily, I only fell from about 8 foot, but he hadn't thought to even start taking tension at that point because he didn't think I was very high. So, yeah, straight down, sprained ankle, ruined the rest of the walking weekend that we were on. It was, our first weekend of freedom. It was the first time we'd been allowed to go travelling without parents. We got the train over there, and we're planning a massive week away. Yeah, we got about halfway through it, and I fell off a climbing wall. Limped back home, literally. Yeah.
I'd love to get into climbing. Just from like a fitness point of view, but
I think it's one of the best whole body workout sports you can do.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
I think I would definitely need to
use your legs, not your arms. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although with the press ups, you should be getting there by now.
Well, yeah, I mean that's it give me a fighting chance at least.
Have you got a local indoor climbing wall?
No, that's the problem. That's because we've looked at it before, just for the young'un. And there's like a kind of an adventure center type place, but it's used by the schools and stuff.
Yeah.
So trying to actually get in there, recreationally to do it, so it's not really practical.
Yeah, our nearest one is probably a good 45 minutes to an hour away.
Yeah.
Next nearest one's about an hour. It's not so bad. I don't think I can do the climbing, I think, still, mostly, but I couldn't do the landing if I fell off. That would be a really bad day for me.
Most of them are auto belays now, though, so it's a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you're going high. I was thinking more kind of bouldering style. Certainly the one, I don't know about the one close. I think the one closest is got auto belays. Yeah. The one that's a bit further away is bouldering only.
Right.
So it maxes out at I think 3.5 or 4 meters. The big mats. But yeah, auto belays make a big difference.
Yeah,
you haven't got to trust somebody else.
I can see why they've put them in.
Yeah.
No, obviously we've got there's like a natural rock formation nearby called Brimham Rocks, which it's well known for traditional and sport climbing. It's all kind of pre-roped a lot of the routes. So yeah, a lot of people locally go climbing, and it's good fun. It's good exercise. It's just fresh air. Frankly, a lot of the time, it's just sitting around taking the piss out of people falling off rocks. It's what's not to like?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing about climbing, if you're actually climbing, you can't be worrying about that email that I sent earlier or that I received earlier. You have to focus on where you're climbing, whether you're indoors or outdoors. It's such a great mind. And it is a mind sport as well, because you have to think about what you're doing here. Right, where am I laying away on this? Am I pushing down? Am I pulling up? How am I going to move through this particular kind of crux move or whatever? And it's and let's say it's outside.
That's why I make things. It blocks that noise, doesn't it? Clears the headspace. If you're focusing on soldering something or whatever, it's it ties up your mind, stops you stressing out about other things.
I think that's why a lot of people
said for that forced focus, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah. It's that and acquiring new skills. It's always going to be. There's always something else to do. And acquiring new tools, obviously, that comes with it, you know. Gear acquisition syndrome.
I'm really, really trying to be good at the minute. I think I'm doing all right.
New tool day today.
Yeah, I seem to have just passed my syndrome on to Andy.
Yeah, do you want to know what I got?
What did you get?
Oh, a plastic welder.
Yes. Plastic welder. Because we've got a few plastic things that are broken and I really don't want to just throw them away. I think
it's an excuse to buy a new toy.
Yeah, we've got 3 or 4 laundry baskets, plastic laundry baskets. And they get blown off, they get blown off like a garden table if there's just a wind or something and they get smelled. Somebody drops them full of clothes. And they split and you can't glue it. Yeah. I've tried gluing before. It kind of holds for a while, but it doesn't really work. Doesn't matter whether you use epoxy or hot glue.
I've used strap banding and pop rivets before. It's a bit of a hardcore kind of fix for something that's.
Well, the thing is, I still want them to stack because we got they're all the same. So they stack inside each other when they're empty, which is great. It takes up less room in our kind of utility room. So I figure with the plastic welder that they'll still be able to stack. Because I have thought of, in the past, I've kind of thought, right, I could put a bit of wood here. That will hold it together and screw it through. That'll hold it together. But then they just won't stack.
So do you need to buy separate shielding gas for that plastic welder, or?
I hope not. got me welding mask, my auto darkening welding mask in the Tinkerage. So some big gloves. Got my welding gauntlets.
Trying to find a ground on that, sir.
There's no ground clamp that comes with it. I don't know if I had to pay extra for that or something. So I'm looking forward to trying that. It should be good fun. They'll be hunting the broken plastic things just to try it out.
No, let's get this right. You're not going to be hunting around for things that are already broken. You're going to be hunting around
breaking things.
For mild cracks that you can then accentuate and then repair them properly.
Maybe. Yeah.
Guilty. Yeah.
You can't get to episode 76 and us not know you well enough.
The fact that that's cost me more than replacing the 4 laundry baskets that I've got, but it's like they're not going into landfill now.
This is true. And there will be more breakages in the future.
There will. There always are. So so that hopefully that'll be an interesting little thing to sort of try. I've only ever done plastic welding with a kind of soldering iron or a blowtorch and a knife or something like that.
Friction stir welding with a Dremel is quite fun.
I've seen it, but I haven't actually tried. I haven't actually tried it. Yeah, but I have seen it. Yeah,
really good for 3D prints.
Yeah.
We use it a
lot on laptop chassis. If we've got some laptop chassis that are really struggling, bit of ABS filament in a Dremel works a treat. Yeah.
That's quite handy to know.
Yeah, I did. I think I cracked a.
Obviously, never on anything we'd sell, but certainly for in-house repairs is
Not for anyone's sea level.
Actually, that's a good idea. Because I opened up a laptop a couple of weeks ago and kind of may have possibly caused a slight crack in part of it because
Mr. Screw.
Spudger didn't. No, it was just one of those kind of tabs that was just a little bit firmer and didn't get the spudger in quite the right place.
Yeah,
The tabs are all designed to.
you'll
break
never
up
get
anyway.
the tabs back on.
Yeah, but it was the case. I was just leaving it in the wrong place, so the case started to split.
Yeah.
Because I don't take laptops apart every day like you. Yeah, like,
I try not to. If our customers would sell us decent equipment, we'd be all right. Unfortunately, all we ever get is what the stuff, it's the items people want rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've still
it
got a
turns
laptop
out
to
most of the
repair.
time they want rid of them for a reason. Yeah.
it's possibly the one that's down behind me. Actually, I can't remember which one. I've got a few old laptops. Yeah, apart from the one I'm actually using right now, I think all the laptops in the house are quite a few years old, shall we say? Some of them are in double digits. And it's like you do have to wonder sometimes whether it's worth actually kind of, because I opened up the one just to see whether it was kind of expandable memory. And it is. And then I was like, how easy would it be to change out this hard drive for an SSD? And would that actually make this nearly 10-year-old laptop perform better than it does? Because it's very slow.
We've still got a 12-year-old laptop in production at work. Still quite happily churning away with what it needs to do. That's been upgraded to its hind teeth. It's had RAM, CPU, SSD. It's been stripped down and thermal compounded at least twice by me. Over the years, it's still quite happily going on.
Yeah, we still donate third gen CPUs. Laptops with third gen i3 would still have a usable life.
Yeah, and this is a
obviously
first gen
we don't sell them, but we do donate them. Yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of places do you donate them to? Just kind of Computers for Africa type thing, or
we're trying not to. We up until last year we sent a lot to IT Schools Africa, who are a charity who set up IT training centres over there. But the main issue is they don't have the resources to recycle them at the end of life.
Yeah.
So essentially we're shipping future e-waste to Africa instead of current e-waste to Africa, and you don't want to be doing either, really. So most recently we donated to Harrogate Homeless Project. They have a couple of sort of moving on houses for people who were living on the streets. They're gradually moving them back into housing. So we've donated some machines, some PCs that can stay in the interim accommodation, and then some laptops for them to take with them as they move forward, so that they've always got internet access. They can get online, they can apply for jobs,
fantastic.
apply for benefits, whatever's necessary. It just helps facilitate that. We're not far off now, internet access being one of the critical needs for getting through life.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Yeah. And it'd be a real shame if people couldn't have access to that, especially when we're trying to ship similar equipment to Africa. Let's start at home, keep it local, stop shipping it all thousands of miles for the sake of it. It's if it's got to use locally,
it's knowing
let's
that
do
then
Yeah.
so you're losing the kind of the shipping miles
Yeah.
and the impact
that's
that
it.
has. Then you're adding in the chance, or the improved chance, that at end of life it is going to get proper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a challenge. Everybody intends to do the right thing.
Yeah,
100%. We obviously have shipped to Africa for many years, and I felt good about it the first time I organised a shipment, because I thought I was doing a good thing. And then it was kind of highlighted by somebody on LinkedIn, believe it or not, in a pleasant way, which always helps, that maybe it wasn't the best idea. And, what were they going to do with it when it did reach end of life for them? And I kind of had it in my head at the time, because I've seen it in India, that they would just repair it and keep repairing it and find, 1,001 methods of keeping this thing alive. But ultimately, everything has its day. At that point, what happens to it? And it may well end up, on a street corner on fire with somebody trying to smelt the chips, or, we're at that point where they're trying to get the copper out of the board. And particularly laptops of that era, they're going to be full of polychlorinated biphenyls and all the unpleasantness that you don't want in the air. So, it gets tricky then. Yeah. It's,
It does indeed. It does indeed.
Ethics and morals would be, I suppose, doing ethics would be a good GCSE option as well, wouldn't it?
I think I should have done that at primary school, in fairness.
One of my
with stuff like that, though.
Yeah, one of my tutees was applying for Oxbridge, and because of the course that they want to do, had to do the TSA, the Thinking Skills Assessment, and I was given a little bit of help with that prior to them doing it. Did it a couple of weeks ago, and it's looking at the kind of resources that are around for it, and looking at some of the assessment itself. It's a really good. Actually, it's a good course. There's actually a book that's designed for it, and actually, it'd be a great thing. I think all young people should. I think everyone should do it. Never mind young people, but actually, sort of looking at it and kind of this stuff that I've done and this stuff that I'm. Yeah, like some of the thinking skills. It includes things like mathematical reasoning, and that's stuff that I'm pretty good at. I know I've got a few little gaps in. There's a few little places in reasoning mathematically where I always struggle a bit, but a lot of it, that problem solving, generally pretty good at, and I enjoyed doing that. But it also included sort of the textbook that's available, includes a big chunk on that critical thinking, and it's really, really quite good. And I think that's I think one of the problems with kind of the A-level system as we have it at the moment, compared to say like the IB, the International Baccalaureate, the diploma, the advanced diploma, where you kind of the A-level equivalent. For A-levels you do kind of 3, maybe 4 subjects, but with the IB you still have to do kind of English and maths and a language and critical thinking, theory of knowledge. And I think that gives a really good kind of grounding that I think is sort of missing. But there are, like you say, thinking about things like, you do something and you see, like sometimes people going abroad to kind of, right, I'm going to go to Eastern Europe, or I'm going to go to Africa with a group of other people for a week, and we're going to build something. And then you kind of hear about actually what they built then ends up getting knocked down fairly quickly because it actually wasn't fit for purpose. But they've been so excited about going out and having to build this thing that they didn't necessarily have it all planned out properly. The foundations weren't there, whether that's physical or literal foundations, or whether that's actually we've got to think about drainage, or putting things in the wrong place just because there's that excitement to go out. This getting that balancing kind of the right help in the right place that isn't then actually going to cause problems down the line, I think is something that's not always done well. And it's tricky to do well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same sort of thing as, winning your Aston Martin in your game show sort of thing, isn't it? You've still got to then, tax and insure and fuel and maintenance and all the rest of the stuff. It's sometimes
or sell and then profit from it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, sometimes that gift that we think we're giving as a nice gesture is often doing more harm than good, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
I think it was it's on Facebook earlier. Mike Laffey made a comment about how about Christmas and that kind of whole let's try and get Christmas and for the Americans, the kind of Thanksgiving and the sort of the gifts and things like that, and actually trying to focus that on the real on interactions between people and experiences rather than actually just thinking about it in terms of gifts. I think John D. Harvey sort of said, their family mostly older. There aren't any real young members of the family, so they've basically said, right, we're not going to do gift giving this year. Let's just kind of have some nice meals together. Let's have some evenings where we kind of have some. And I'm just, it didn't specifically state this, but kind of let's get together for some evenings and play some games and let's do things together. I think.
Well, I think the last couple of years we've all kind of realised that time is more important than stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we do every Christmas now, we've got obviously I'm a member of Round Table locally, and we raise a lot of funds for charity. We're a drinking club with a charity problem, is the way we describe ourselves.
Love it.
But we, for the last 7-8 years, we've organised a lunch for older people, old and lonely people, more to the point.
Yeah.
Every Christmas, and then we realised, hang on, Christmas, there's loads of this sort of initiative going on. Let's have a summer picnic for them as well.
Fantastic.
And we now do about 4 meals a year where we all go out, and there's 20 of us. We'll pick up 4 older people in our cars each, and before we know it, we've got 100 people sat around having a barbecue or a picnic or an evening meal. It doesn't cost a fortune. It costs us maybe 50 quid a head to cater for these older people as well. And we just ask the local church groups and other organisations for nominees, and they 100%, every single one of them absolutely loves it. They absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And then we, without them knowing, we add them to our Christmas hampers list, and they plus a good few families locally with young children that don't have a lot of cash will put together a Christmas hamper for them. And there's a degree of, yes, there's a tin turkey or some Christmas themed items, but there's also toothpaste, there's bleach, there's washing powder,
stuff that's needed.
We give essentials as well, because it's all stuff that comes out the household budget. And it makes a massive difference. It's we're fortunate now. It's gained a scale where we can apply to local businesses, some of the bigger supermarkets. They've all got charity funds inbuilt, and you just got to learn how to wangle your way in there. But we get some very regular, very generous donations from local businesses.
Fantastic.
Just to supply the essentials, and it's the kind of initiative that government should be encouraged, but they really don't. The incentives aren't there, and it's such a shame. It is,
because for something that's essentially a simple gesture, like you say, like taking someone out for lunch, or that kind of getting some essentials in, those kind of things are small in the grand scheme, but have such a massive impact for the people who receive them. I saw a story the other day of someone who was having a bit of a gathering, and went and sort of spoke to her local neighbour who was like an 83-year-old widower, guy, nice and quiet sort of thing, but she sort of went round and said, like, we're going to have a bit of a gathering, a bit of a barbecue, hopefully we're not going to be too loud, or anything like that, to kind of pre-warn him, sort of thing. And then as she sort of walked away, she went, hang on a minute, and kind of wandered back and went, would you like to join us? apparently, it jumped at the chance. It was like wonderful invitation to come and do something it doesn't get that opportunity to do. And apparently, it was absolutely in his element. And then came around the following day, seeing if he needed help clearing up and stuff. And just that sort of simple gesture to reach out to someone like that, it can do so much good.
There's some fantastic. It's a shame that obviously we need these things. Yeah, the use of food banks has gone up massively in this country. We're supposed to be one of the premier countries in the world, and whatever that means. But we're supposed kingdom it's years, and we'll try and stay away from politics. But I think the ability to have these things that kind of support is fantastic. I mean, I had an interesting. I'd say conversation. It was online. A Discord group I was in. I'd shared some pictures of some of the organisation I've been doing at the Men's Shed, because this is one of my attention grabbers. I've been because I started going again, as I mentioned, I think last week, and I've been sorting out their hand tool wall, because it was just literally that they put screws and L cup hook type things in the wall, and just everything was just hung on those. There was one set of rods with a gap in that they could put screwdrivers in, and too many tools for starters. Even for it's a community workshop, so you need more than one of each tool. But some tools you only need one of, even if you're in a community shop. Some of the tools were broken and dangerous. Some of the sort of safe craft knives. I was going to say safety knives for a moment, but they weren't.
Unsafe.
So I've been kind of making holders, and so they'll be able to be moved around on the this bit of plywood shuttering that they got on the wall. And I've already been discussing with the committee about kind of some of the other things that I can use some of the scrap wood to make these holders, and I'll do some for the power tools, charging station, and things like that. And it's just nice to sort of tinker and to potter away at kind of these things rather than kind of working on a particular project. And I'd shared some of the pictures in this group, which is mostly Americans, but there's some Europeans and people there's at least one from Korea and a few other places around. And I put about the kind of, it was a thing for the Men's Shed. And I hadn't actually thought about this when I was posting it, but a couple of people sort of died and said, I don't know what's happening in the UK, but certainly over here in the US, we wouldn't want one of these very gendered spaces, making spaces. And I kind of had to sort of think twice. Actually, right. Okay. Although this is a sort of making space, this is actually the secondary function of it. The primary function is to create a space where men, particularly older, generally retired, possibly widowed, lonely blokes mostly, can kind of come along and have a cuppa, socialize, and possibly make stuff, and maybe learn some skills. I mean, we guy this week, one of the guys is really into scroll saw, and he taught one of the other guys how to use a scroll saw. And just like he did that on Tuesday. On Thursday, the guy kind of got a scroll saw out on his own and just started scrolling away and just practicing. And it's like, this is great. He's picked up this. He's never done this before, and now he's learned this new skill. And he's probably in his 70s. And it's fantastic. And just the beam on his face. He was there. He had his earbuds plugged in at one point, and he was just kind of sort of working away, and he's just like smiling to himself as he's kind of making these things and going, "Oh, look what I've done!" It's like absolutely fantastic, and it's great to have that kind of these things that were. Again, shame we have to have them, but actually it's brilliant the fact that we do have these ability to kind of say, certain groups of people need actually kind of this help, and let's get it in and let's do it.
It's not even necessarily specialist groups. We at work now, we've set up a tool library for everybody at work. So, cool. I've got a hammer drill. Somebody else has got an SDS. Occasionally I'll need an SDS. I don't want to go out and buy one. Well, of course I do. But we've now set up this rack of tools with glue guns and everything else, stuff we generally use at work. But people can come in, they can sign up for 20 minutes, half hour familiarization and training, and then they can take it home for the weekend. And they sign it out, they sign it back in, and it's just sensible. You know, we've got all this equipment sat laying around that we've paid good money for. Let's get the use out of it. So having a tool library has been a really big change for us. And, you know, a lot of the marketing team and, you know, guys and girls who aren't generally in ops, as I am, they don't use this stuff regularly, and it scares them.
Yeah.
And we literally had one of the girls in marketing last week came and borrowed just a normal Makita drill. And I said, oh, what are you planning on using it for? Are you putting pictures up or this, that, or the other? She went, no, I'm just going to take it home. I've got a piece of wood and I'm going to drill a load of holes in it. Because
Perfect.
I want to know how. And that was, you know, that ticks the box. It's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to know that somebody's just going to go and have fun.
Yeah, I did that with my my boss is, you know, is a practical man, but he's been living in this kind of you know, sort of cerebral world for so long that he's sort of out of practice in practicalities. And a few years back, he was looking at you know, kind of perhaps replacing his old NICAD Bosch Green drill that was, you know, barely holding a charge and stuff. And he was like, "You like your tools? What do I get?" It's like, right, let me bring the toys in. So I did that. I screwed a few random blocks of wood and stuff to a bit of plywood, and basically just took, you know, like a play center in for him, you know, with like bolts and drill bits and all sorts of stuff that he could just play with, and just put some small screws in and big screws in and make some holes and Forstner bits and all sorts of stuff with a selection of my drills, you know, to kind of go, right, well, this is a 12-volt one that does this. Have a try with that, you know, that, like, to show what the new technology is like compared to his 25-year-old, you know, Bosch Green sort of thing. And it just that kind of big smile on his face of just being able to, it's like, what, do we not, it's a pre-drill to put that 4-inch screw in with this little tiny 12-volt drill. Like, nope, grip on. You know, what? No, can't be. It will, you know. It's what's needed, isn't it? Just that kind of, you know, here's how to use the thing safe. Now go and play.
Yeah. It's one of the things I enjoy at work. We've got obviously certain bits of equipment we can't get to work. You know, they're either so old they're not worth the time and effort to data wipe and everything else. So our data capability statement literally states we will render this non-working. And as we all know, there are many ways you can do that, but a big hammer is the best one.
Yep.
And yeah, you know, we have sessions at work now where people just come down and hit stuff with hammers. Yeah, I mean, we then dismantle it further and we'll get the PCB out and that'll go in a separate recycling box to the bare metal and so on. But at the end of the day, office staff get to hit stuff with hammers, generally stuff around the office that annoys them day to day. So they love every minute. Yeah.
I bet everyone wants to come and smash the crap out of the printers.
Yeah, the printers are a downside because toner's unpleasant stuff.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
And the rods in them are nice as well. We don't like messing up rods and bearings because they can have another life elsewhere.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
Taking all the fun out of it now.
No, I mean, even end-of-life printers are the bane of my life because people don't realise just how many have a hard drive in them.
Of course,
they cause us so many dramas. Yeah.
Yeah, especially all the all the big fancy ones have all got it. Yeah.
But the big fancy ones don't come with manuals either, so you can't see where the hard drive is. So you can spend half a day with a screwdriver trying to get home. Yeah.
To be honest, I quite like that. And I don't know, obviously, in a commercial situation, you've got time is money and all that. But I mean, I spent many hours as a kid, sort of just taking stuff apart. Yeah, just like my dad would bring something home and kind of go, "Okay, there you go, you can take that apart." And it's like there was no intent to put it back together necessarily.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I can see what I can get off this.
Yeah.
And I'll just take every screw out.
Well, my favourite project so far has been taking laptops to the Scouts and a couple of local schools and, other organisations, and just letting the kids have a go. And I bought a load of Phillips zero size screwdrivers, £1.40 each or something, and a child can have an entire afternoon of fun with that. And at the very end of it, I get a big box of perfectly stripped down laptops that I can then go and sort into e-waste. I just get free labour, and they have a way of the time.
Crowdsourced labour,
child labour. Yeah.
You would be amazed how often, though, you get a penis carved into the screen of a laptop. It's just it never occurred to me before I ran this course, but it's at least 5 times every event.
Does that happen with the kids as well?
It's just stress relief. Yeah. But yeah, the Scouts were the most aggressive with the equipment. They'd get half a dozen screws out and then get bored and just tear it open. That was an eye opener.
I can imagine that. Yeah, having kind of done stuff with Scouts in the past, and I can completely imagine that. I think
at the end of the sessions, just seeing the smiles, especially if you've got a really good group and they put the laptop back together again. I never take any equipment we expect to be working by the end of it, but it's normally stuff that's failed for numerous reasons. It's got a broken screen, a broken keyboard, and a bad battery, and it's just beyond economic repair. Then we'll take it along to these events, and I try and group them together so we've got 30 Dell Latitude 5470s or whatever, and then let the kids go at it. And occasionally you'll come back with 4 or 5 fully working machines.
Oh, cool!
And it's just brilliant. It is. They understand as well, both the value of the equipment and the fact that the parts are swappable. It's something not a lot of adults get. It's
totally.
If your screen's dead on your laptop, it goes in the bin for a lot of people. And for the sake of 40 quid for a screen, it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the monitor that's behind my left shoulder there, that came from a school I was at, and they had hundreds of these exactly the same monitors, and of course, kids would wreck them, or they would just die of their own volition. And every now and again, there'd be underneath one of the stairwells, underneath the stairs, there'd be a stack of them, and there'd normally be kind of some sort of label on them as well, sort of saying kind of what the kind of generic symptom of the fault was. Whether like cracked screen or backlight gone or no power or whatever. And they would all end up going into for e-waste disposal. I said to the IT network guy, I was like, look, can I have a couple of those? Because I just want to see if I can get working ones. So I had a look through, picked 2 that were like, okay, that one's a Duff screen, that one's Duff power supply. Brought them home. Got a working machine. And the other bits went to the e-waste at the tip.
Yeah, one of mine's the same. I ended up that was completely got power supply completely gone on it. It was a Dell Pro screen. I managed to get I had a poke at it to see if it was repairable first, but it was about 30 quid for something from Alibaba or one of the places that just happened to have the specific model of power supply that you could just search for and buy by the serial number on the power supply.
Yep.
You know, and 4 to 6 weeks later it arrived, and the screen's been working ever since, and that was a number of years ago.
Yeah, that's the critical thing I teach at all the sessions is everything's got a part number. You've just got to find it. You know, Dell are very, very good, and they label everything Dell part number.
Yeah.
There's a DP/N on every Dell product. You know, every component. So it's incredibly easy to replace on Dells, and then Lenovo's have a FRU field replacement unit. HP have a number that ends in 001. That's their part number. It's just Lego at the end of the day, and understanding how the different connectors work. Yeah,
it's matching the pins, isn't it?
It's good fun.
So, I mean, isn't some of the issue that sometimes certain manufacturers aren't so good about that, and actually then accessing the information about kind of, you know, where to find it?
Certainly for probably the last 10 years, most things are swappable. You get into Apple, who were very anti-repair. You know, they've started pairing screens and fingerprint readers and so on. So if you change one of the components, the other stops working. That's
Cause you used to be able to. You used to be able to kind of, and I've prepared a few Macs for people. Yeah, swapping out your new hard drive, or putting in taking out the CD and putting in a secondary hard drive, or just repasting things or whatever. And it used to be quite easy to do, but certainly stuff I've kind of heard online in more recent years is it's just become harder and harder. Yeah, they won't supply parts. They won't allow generic parts. They won't give access to manuals, so unless somebody's already done it, you haven't got a chance.
Ultimately, Apple aren't the only guilty party. You know,
not at all.
Yeah,
they're not even necessarily that bad. It just sometimes feels that way. But certainly, I know Lenovo went through a phase of they'd have 8 screws in the back panel, and one of the screws would be slightly longer than all the others. And if you put it in any of the other holes, it would fry your circuit board. And
straight through and break the trace.
Almost intentional. Let's put it that way. Maybe it was a design coincidence, but it's a shame.
I'm sure it would
really
be pointed out to them fairly quickly by kind of people doing repair legitimately. But
well, they get around it by they often have good documentation, good service and repair manuals and things like that. But then they will note which are the longer screws.
Yeah.
So that's the get out clause.
And that documentation is only approved. You know, it's only there for approved partners. That's the issue. Yeah. But then I had an iPhone 4 the other day that marketing had asked me to take apart and kind of bare bones it for. They're doing an education piece with some local schools, and they said, "Look, could you strip this down and give us the bits back one piece at a time so that we can get photos of them and all the rest?" So of course I went straight to iFixit's site, followed their teardown process, and because of the age of the phone, they said it was like a 7 out of 10 repair, which nowadays is incredibly hard. And yet all it was 2 screws out the bottom and the back slides off. You know, you don't see that in a modern phone now. Nothing gets away without being glued now. Yeah,
I was going to say, it's put the phone on the heat plate, melt the glue, get the dental floss in to separate the glue from the outside. Yeah.
But it's
that's the thing. Like because we use we tend to go for like the workstation machines and stuff for work, because it's production CAD environment, so it makes more financial sense to go for a workstation because you've got that kind of back end support. Things like the we've got Dell Precision desktops, and then we tend to go for the HP laptops. And they're just the design, because they're a more expensive machine, but it seems to be that the higher up in price you get, the more
repairable it is.
Accessible, repairable, upgradable, and usable for the techs that it is. You know, it's all very well and good buying a 400 quid laptop, but then when something breaks on it, you're buying another 400 quid laptop because there's nothing you can do with it. But you buy, a 12 or a $2,000 laptop, and then every single piece, like you say, is easily replaceable, and you order the part numbers, and it's a HP Elite book that's still working at our office, and it's used every day. Albeit it's not for strenuous tasks, but it's still running production workloads. It's a 12-year-old machine that's been it's the first gen.
Ian's just commented in the chat, I think I've got my head around the basics, but I don't want to buy a rubbish one. But the secret is, instead of buying a £400 rubbish laptop, buy a £400 refurbished 2-year-old precision laptop. You can get really high-end equipment second-hand that's got a new lease of life. And I don't want to be the company shill, but it's why we do what we do. That kit has still got a really good life left in it, and you get a lot more bang for your buck at that point.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah, even just in material qualities and stuff like that. The amount of cheap and cheerful laptops that are just, like you say, super fragile plastic cases that twist or break, or you put them in the bag wrong and sit your shopping on it, and
tools as well. You can go out there and buy a second-hand Hilti, and it'll last you another 3 lifetimes. You might have to change some bushings, but it's
absolutely
worth remembering.
There's always with sort of tools that balance. I think tools may be slightly different for laptops just because of the use case, where how much you're using it. Are you doing something that you're going to use a tool once and never use it again?
Yeah.
Are you? I mean, like the Adam Savage approach is, buy the first time you need a tool, buy the cheapest one. If you've used it and you're going to use it again, or if it breaks and this has made a difference, then buy the most expensive one you can afford.
Yeah.
But kind of buy that. But then you get a lot of people, particularly in kind of the sort of woodworking community, making community, kind of sort of say things. Buy cheap, buy twice, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think. Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, I'll just go out and buy Festool for my entire work.
Well, it's a great way to use a bit of the privilege as well, though, isn't it? If you know that you can potentially go and buy a tool twice, buy a thing from Lidl for a £5 and then buy the brand leading one for 50 quid in a month's time or 2 months' time or whatever. It's costing you 55 quid to get a good tool because you'll use it. And you've got then a 5 quid spare tool that you can then hand to a friend who hasn't yet got that, or it's a way of at least using a bit of privilege rather than sitting there with it or ignoring it.
The problem is when that 5 quid tool blows up, what happens to it? And
true.
I suspect we've probably got. I know I've got tools in here that don't work because I'm going to save the bits and I'll use them for something else down the line. And
okay, now I'm feeling called out.
I was going to say, are we allowed in the UK to call Fifth Amendment rights on and stuff like that?
I think you're long past that, Andy. The amount of times you've alluded to your collection of Duff Sanders.
Yeah. I try and save calculators don't end up with landfill with me. Yeah, I'll say that.
This is very true.
I think I've only got there's only 3 in. There's only 4 in there.
So,
and one in my bag down here.
while we're talking, on that kind of subject of, of stuff going in landfill, that collection of RAM that I was chatting to you about the other day, Alan. I've still got like a set of 8 gig sticks, a set of 4 gig sticks, and then a 16. There's 158 gigs of server RAM across whatever it was, 23 sticks in total or something.
Yeah,
and it's essentially worthless. It would cost more in my time to do the packaging to send it up to be tested.
Yeah.
But then I'm there going, well, I could literally just chuck that in straight into the e-waste. But then I'm going, well, there's little bits of, there's aluminium heat spreaders on there. What can I use those for? Maybe I could strip them down, put them in a stack, so I've just got a load of heat spreaders, and then get rid of the RAM, put that in e-waste.
Yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it?
It's a nightmare. Because I know me and Andy have already talked about the bags of other random RAM sticks that we've got from the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I'm just looking around here. I've got 1 laptop, 2 iPads, another 3 laptops, Microsoft Surface Pro. I've got a Game Boy. It's more technology than I'll ever need. Sat waiting for repair.
Yeah.
And it's what I do for a living.
Well, all this talk of repairing laptops and stuff. The friend of mine whose laptop I've been threatening to repair for time. It's sort of gentle reminder today. It's like, have you got anywhere with that laptop yet? No, and I've got an entire replacement laptop to transplant the bits across, and I need a place
to do it.
Well, the time isn't as much of the issue as having enough flat surfaces to dismantle 2 laptops. Because that's
in fairness, that's why this
job.
workshop looks like this. Yeah,
exactly.
I've got the buckets over there because I moved house a year ago.
It's far
I've
too
still
early
not
to be
got
fully
around to
unpacked.
unpacking them. Yeah, not quite got enough shelves up to put it all on.
Yeah, it sort of realised today because I was in attention grabbers. I was in the work office today doing some shuffling and tidying and reorganising the network cabinets for some new fibre we're getting. And it's that kind of realisation of, oh yeah, I used to work in this place, and there's lots of big desks that would be perfect for dismantling laptops on, including the one dedicated for me to dismantle laptops on. I might just come in here and do it.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day. There's a photography podcast I listen to called Shoot, Edit, Repeat. It's actually finishing. Well, it's finished now. They had their last episode a couple of weeks ago, and one of the hosts of that has literally in the last 3 months rented a office space in London because they wanted to get out of their house where they've been working for years now, even prior to pandemic, and they just want that kind of ability to have somewhere where they can go and a few times I've thought, because there's a couple of little sets of industrial units, varying sizes, some of them quite small, just sort of locally. A couple of times I thought, I wonder how much it would cost to kind of have a little workshop with a little bit of office space, or even just because there's a few places locally where there's just literally there's offices, and then I kind of go online and get into the kind of rabbit hole of that ain't happening.
I've done the same recently. Yeah, just having a look at because of the space to try and do things. It's just there's no decent area in where I live to try and do that, and there's no local makerspaces. So I sort of thought, maybe if I find a bit of, an industrial unit that's just a big flat open space that I can just put stuff in, move my workshops to there, drop the hard drive platters on the floor.
Sounds expensive.
That was a stack of
I
platters.
thought it was your best crystal going then. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's like you say, it's great if you're using it as a place to earn money to pay for the rent.
Yeah.
But there's no places just for 50 quid a month just to turn up and play.
50 quid a month. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's what we need. We need the.
If I find something 50 quid a month, I'll go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of factor of 10 out.
Yeah, at least.
For
factor of 10 would get me a small office.
Yeah.
Which would probably be fine for the 3D printer, but it probably wouldn't be happy with drills and sparky things. Yeah, it'd be nice to have that facility. It's in southeast of England. It's not happening.
No.
Yeah, it's really not. Yeah, here people kind of renting a few hundred square feet for like 200 quid a month or even less, and you kind of go, yeah. I think a couple of years ago I was looking, and there was somewhere in the town nearest me where I could hot desk for 50 quid a week.
Bargain.
I was like, that's not happening. Yeah. Or there was another one. It was a little bit more, but you could have your own desk. But it was still essentially in an open plan office. You could have your own desk and phone. I was like, well, that's no good either, because I'm not going to leave anything. Yeah. Can't do tools in there.
Yeah, just paying a bit extra to leave a picture of your kids on the desk.
Yeah. Not happening. But yeah, then you see, I've seen a few people. There's a couple of people online where you they've got a part of a barn on a farm, and then they they bought it all out, and then they build a little office, and it's just like, yeah, it's great, but you've just spent $2.5 grand on OSB and insulation.
Yeah.
And how to do it. Again, not happening.
Maybe that's the thing. We need a rich benefactor who's willing to start up the maker commune and just find a central location.
Rasmus will get there one day.
Yeah. I just quite like it. It'd be nice to. I mean, like the men's shed I go to. Yeah, it's only open 2 mornings a week. Yeah, it'd be nice if they could have. Yeah, if they were open every day of the week, I'd go every day of the week. I think. Well, not necessarily every day, but I'd go most days of the week. A good makerspace locally would be lovely. But I'm not. The nearest one to me is. It would take me at least 45 minutes to drive. It's in the middle of a town, so then I'd have to find somewhere to park. And it's 2 rooms, one of which is about the same size as the Tinkerage. Yeah, they've got a bunch of electronics and a couple of 3D printers. And
could you volunteer to staff it one more day a week, though?
What, the men's shed or the makerspace?
Good question.
No, it's because of who they get the space from.
Right.
Won't allow it more than that, unfortunately.
That's a shame.
I mean, it's in a good location. The men's shed's in the centre of. It's a smaller town, not the same as the makerspace town. It's in a good location. People can walk. Some people walk there. But
I've been trying to press the argument for a maker's space at work that we can open up on evenings and weekends.
That would be good.
But I'm struggling to get traction on that one. It's insurance headaches and all the usual, and we've spoken to half a dozen makerspaces on how to address that and that kind of thing, but ultimately it's going nowhere. It's for all that I tell work, we're investing in talent, trying to find interested kids who are up and coming to come and join us. That's it's a nice idea, but we're not getting anywhere yet.
That's a real shame.
I mean, it's.
I think it's only a matter of time. It is.
Hopefully you'll get there. I'll keep the pressure on, but it is. I mean, running a makerspace. I mean, I've got a little list of sort of things that would be really cool to do, not just project list, but kind of starting up a makerspace. I mean, the nearest biggish town to me doesn't have anything like it. It'd be perfect for it. It's got a population, the population of the surrounding area and the sort of town itself. You're looking at well over 120,000 now. It's probably close to 150,000, depending on how far out you go through the villages. Perfect place for it. There's some great places within the town, and it would be nice for somebody to go. And a few times I thought, it would be nice for somebody to do it. Maybe you should do it. But then it's actually kind of you think about how much commitment that takes. I think if I actually lived in the town, I think I possibly would think more about it. But the fact that it's a bit of a drive, driving isn't great.
That's it. Harrogate's sizable and it's reasonably wealthy. It'd be quite straightforward to set up. Apart from the fact that commercial property takes such a wallop around here that we'd struggle to find a space to do it in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you kind of need to get local authority support so you can hopefully get a space. But then you've got to find, is there a industrial estate that is essentially still local authority rather than privately landlorded?
This is it. And ultimately, National Lottery would be one we'd go to for a grant, but I can't because they're clients. So we're written off immediately. We can't apply to a grant. So, it's, fun and games.
Well, I was going to say, could the round table do it?
There's ways around, but unfortunately, with because I'm a trustee of table as well, that locks it down. So I'd have to resign as a trustee and probably resign from table. But 3 more years that won't be a problem because I'll get kicked out. We have enforced retirement at 45. So
okay.
Oh, interesting.
It keeps the ideas fresh. It's to stop people saying, no, we've tried that, we've done that before, we're not doing that again. It just keeps.
Is that just from kind of committee and trustee status, or is that completely out?
That's completely out. Yeah.
Oh,
so there's another group you join called 41 Club because you used to get thrown out at 40, and it works well. Even the guys who have been thrown out would accept that it was for good reason. Obviously 41 Club are still there for us to lean on as and when we need. They're there for help and advice, and we just ran a bonfire for about 12,000 people. And obviously we needed assistance on that, and 41 Club stepped up and did it with us. Same with the beer festival that we're in March. We do about between 40 and 60k for charity on that event, depending on how good a year it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, COVID's hit that a couple of times recently, but next year should be a really bumpy year for us on the beer festival, and we're going to need that assistance. So it's nice to have them able to call on.
Now, round tables are kind of national, even international organization.
Yeah.
So is that kind of kick out policy? Is that a national?
It's worldwide. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I say worldwide. The Dutch and Germans certainly, because we're twinned with one in Holland and one in Germany. The Dutch and the Germans kick out at 40 without any excuses. They frown on us when they come over because, mainly because they've seen me for too many years. But I've been a member since I was 18 because Dad was a member before me. So I've kind of been going to table events since I was 16, and now at 41, they're getting a bit frustrated with seeing my face every year. I'm the old man of table now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that. That's quite interesting. I think
it works. I mean, we've
got
Ladies Circle, and they have another group called Tangent for the ladies to follow on when they get thrown out. It works well. Builds a really good community, because at some point you lose your voting rights. So at that point, if your opinion's annoying to somebody, they can start to ignore it point blank. Whereas if your opinion is valuable to them, they can still choose to listen, but you don't actually get a vote. It's good.
Yeah. That's interesting.
You see a lot of people as they're reaching retirement age start to become a lot more conciliatory. they try and get a lot more people on side so that their opinion will matter for longer. Yeah.
Forced self-improvement, almost.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I think
it's got value. Yeah.
I've thought a few times, like in education, because you sometimes find, I've worked in a few schools where you get somebody that's worked at the school for like 30, 40 years. And there's merit to that. They form part of the community. You get teachers they've taught the kids and they've taught the grandkids, and even great grandkids and whatever. And there's something to that. But I think sometimes when they get into, you get somebody who's maybe trained at a school and they then move up and they end up in sort of senior management, and they don't necessarily see what other schools are like and how different things can be. I think that can be problematic. And I almost feel as this should there all, and I guess it's one of those things you can argue for and against. Like if you're a head teacher, should there be a limit to how many years you can stay at a school? You can do 8 years at school, 10 years at school, and then you have to move on. And would that again bring in kind of new blood?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of areas where that would be of benefit. I know, said before on other chats and stuff like with BAE systems, there was a lot of kind of new blood and up and coming people, coming into various roles and stuff. And it was there's this kind of culture there of, there was constant regrading staff, after like X number of hours served, sort of thing, which works pretty well, for long-term employment stuff. But it sort of meant that there were lots of people who hadn't really progressed much, but were kind of promoted out of arm's reach, and out of harm's reach as well. Purely for knowledge they've had on a project 20 years ago that is going to reach end of life, but because of things like clearance or security clearance and things like that, it was cheaper for them to just keep paying them a reasonable salary and keep them on the books, give them things to occupy them, just safe in the knowledge that when that question did need to be asked in another 10 years time, they would still be around to answer it to that multi-billionaire who wanted that very specific question answered.
It's like the one thing that's missing from the military nowadays is, the private that's been a private for 20 years and is an incredibly experienced guy that knows exactly what he's doing and doesn't want any more responsibility. But he can manage his own team. His section will be one of the best performers because they're working alongside a guy who'll lead by example. They changed, the rules, and if you're not making Lance Corporal at least, then they won't renew your contract, so you won't sign on for another 12 years, and it's a real shame. Some people don't want to be leaders. They don't want to go that next step. They're good at what they do, and they want to be good at it. And I think people need to accept and understand that more often than we often do.
It's that diversity, isn't it? That sometimes it's it fitting the job to the person rather than fitting the person to the job.
Yeah.
Well, there's this sort of thing in society, isn't it, about kind of everyone should be pushing to be better, but
hustle culture.
But that pushing to be better is often translated into, and I think that's a good thing. Everyone should be trying to improve, but often that's seen as everyone needs to be successful. Everyone needs to get promotion. Everyone needs to be a leader, and not everyone is up to being a leader. B, there's that element of, if you understand your limits, it's the Peter principle. People get promoted to their highest level of incompetence, or their lowest level of incompetence. I can't remember which way around it goes now. But you just keep
company you're working at.
Yeah, if you're competent, you get promoted, and then eventually you get promoted to a point where you're no longer competent. And if you're clever, you'll recognise that you've reached a point where you're not competent, and you'll step back, and you'll probably then be successful. But more often than not, people who get to that level of incompetence then just stay there and cause problems.
Or make a lateral move for more money in the same job role, with saving the knowledge that they've got 6 months or a year's experience in the air quotes, in that job.
Yeah.
I've worked with quite a few people where I've watched them make the lateral move and breathe a sigh of relief that they're no longer one of our problem.
Mind you, for some people, that sideways move can then actually, maybe moving into a different team, can give them the boot they need, or the environment they need to then actually make progress. So it can be a good thing. But you're right. Also, it's going to be an even better thing for the team that left behind, not having to deal with that. But I don't think it's enough of kind of recognising where one is good and how to kind of just make the right progressions and know when to kind of stop progressing upwards but progress within the role.
Well, it's the tree thing, isn't it? You reach a point where you've got a nice height, you start to spread your branches out. It's one of those tricky things that to take a good hard look at yourself and realize your flaws and your faults and what needs work and things like that. It's a scary prospect for a lot of people.
That's it. You're talking about spreading branches. I'm looking at pruning myself now. I want to pull back in a little bit and find the right direction, find where my core skills are.
Figure out what shape you're going to be.
Yeah, one of the joys of being self-employed for 20 years was I did everything.
Yeah.
And then coming into being employed by somebody else was brilliant, because it allowed me to focus on what I thought I was good at. And now 3 years in, I'm actually starting to realise what I'm really good at instead of what I thought I was good at.
That's a wonderful story with you with that in that sense, because obviously Andy and I have known you long enough to
5-6 years.
Yeah, exactly. So we watched you come into this job and had conversations with you where you were like, I don't know what the hell any of this is, I don't know what I'm doing with this, but I've got this job. And then to kind of watch that progression of not only you surviving, but then like absolutely thriving in it has been wonderful to see for us as friends. Like,
I learned a hell of a lot. That's what's kept me in the role, because I'm hungry for that. I gather skills. It's I don't need to know the nitty gritty of everything, as long as I understand the broader concept. It's what I do. I gather data. Yeah.
And quite often that's not just about the specific thing or the problem. It's who knows how to fix that problem.
Yeah,
you're very good at connecting people to things as well.
Yeah.
That was almost an introduction, wasn't it?
2.5 hours in. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like to pick too soon.
Yeah, it's going to take another twist shortly as well. I've put in a proposal to the MD to start looking at e-bike components and actually generating a second-hand market for e-bike components, because obviously they've only recently taken off last few years, and we've got the green credentials and the technology clout to make it happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, he and I are exploring that at the moment. Could be a new lease of life for a bit.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah,
and it's a really good thing to do in that sense. Like you say, from that green point of view, it's a real benefit, especially if before people ask that question of what happens end of life with these e-bikes, to be able to go, oh yeah,
I do.
You get in touch with Al.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for. It's compulsory now for anybody selling over 30 kilos, I think, of batteries, to have a take back scheme at the end. So 30 kilos of batteries when you're talking about an e-bike is 3 bikes. It's not a lot of kit. So every bike shop is going to be required to do this take back scheme. What happens when your average bike shop gets 4 or 5 e-bike batteries in a week? What are they going to do with them? They've only got a 3-year lifespan, most of them.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Unfortunately, quite a few of them will likely go in the council recycling bin out the back and end up in landfill, frankly. It's terrifying. Yeah.
Especially for the big packs as well.
Yeah. So all I'm hoping for now is that Tesla do actually build a gigafactory up in the northeast, as they've been discussing. And things do progress that way, and hopefully we get a decent refurbished market. Yeah.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, my last sort of 2 weeks of focus on YouTube has been following all the channels that pull apart e-bike batteries and repurpose the cells. And
nice.
Yeah, trying to get my head back around what a viable cell looks like, how to measure the impedance and all the rest. Getting back there again. It's back around to electronics again.
I think
it looks like a pillow. It looks like a pillow. No good.
Spicy pillows.
Yeah. Spicy death pillows. Yeah.
Renoa Super Genius. They've been doing some stuff with e-bikes for years.
Yeah. It was one of the first channels I followed on the subject. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That was back when I was building my trike.
Of course.
Yeah.
That was what got me kind of into that. So I built a few battery packs over the years and stuff from using the tutorials and info and stuff.
Yeah. In fact, that's the front fork of the trike set there.
Yeah. I was trying to figure that out before as to
It's been repurposed since it's the trike is now back to a bike because I've broken too many collarbones on yeah. As soon as you break one twice, you've kind of run out of options. It's
once you've looped back round to the same ones.
Yeah, I'm starting to get really lumpy now. The cold weather stings. Yeah.
Trying to get this guy down my way. It's based in Canterbury. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Robert he's got a double barrel surname. He's done some e-bike reviews, but he's a chemist originally. Does a lot of work on like graphene type stuff and I was going to say e-inks, but not e-inks. as in like e-ink displays, but like carbon-based inks for sort of writing, and he does some of that commercially. But he's very much into alternative energy development. So I mean, he puts out a video a day. Not quite crude in terms of kind of video style. Very little. There's no post production other than editing.
I think I know who you mean, actually. Yeah,
and he does things like he's done a whole series on things like different types of rocket stove, or how to make generators from. He'll take a motor and turn it into a generator, and discuss the different types of generators, different types of wind turbines. He'll turn like just plastic. He'll find something that's recycled. He'll go to a tip or just something that somebody's discarded and turn it into a generator of some sort, whether it's a sort of bike powered, and does a lot of stuff like that. He's got some interesting stuff on some of the science behind batteries and energy production. He's stripped batteries apart before now to sort of show how they're made.
I mean, graphene and buckyballs were big news back when I was doing physics. And it was the up and coming thing then. It still is now. It's but
people are making reasonable quantities.
They are actually making progress
now, rather than kind of just look, if I take a pencil and rub it on the piece of paper and then put some sellotape on it and rip it apart 55 times, then I've got a layer of graphene. Fun stuff. I mean,
it really is an incredible material.
Yes.
The future is very, very promising. Yeah. It needs to be, frankly. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the status of a population, isn't it? Or not a population, a civilization. Is the energy production, storage, and use. That's kind of the defining characteristics, isn't it?
One of, yeah. How they look after people is another one.
We're not getting political, though.
Well, is it at least grabbing our attention?
Oh, Steve level segue. Yay! So getting to the point of what the things that grab our attention, whether it's videos, projects we've done, projects we're going to do, books we've read, films we've watched, whatever.
3 of each, please, Alan.
So unfortunately, after Fulls with Tools podcast last week, I sat and watched KKK. Sorry, no, RRR, not KKK. Yeah, RRR on Netflix. I think it was Steve Spiff, or was it Brett's? I think it was Brett's, and it's Bollywood in kind of all its finest glory. It was spectacular.
Fantastic.
Yeah, RRR, definitely not KKK. Totally different films. Brutal in parts. It starts incredibly uncomfortably. But well worth a watch, and it's laugh out loud funny in many parts, and very, very cringeworthy in others. So it's very British Empire themed, and it strikes a bit too close to home in parts. It's pretty brutal.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So that would definitely be one. Otherwise, as I say, I'm very, very hot on e-bikes at the moment, and working my way through many, many channels on that front. Renault's is one solid channel. I'm trying to think who else I've seen recently. Beyond that, I've been down a rabbit hole recently of cars, and Matt's Off-Road Recovery, and there's kind of a trifecta there. There's Matt's Off-Road Recovery, and Robbie Layton runs an auto body repair shop. And I can't think of the name of the third channel right now. It's escaped me. But if you certainly if you go down the route of Matt's off-road recovery, you'll find the others. Yeah.
Not off-road, but I by accident today came across a reference to I can't remember the name of it now, an all-electric supercar. And
The Rimac.
That's the one. And yeah, it was just like absolutely phenomenal. I saw a clip of it from Top Gear going up against the Lamborghini Aventador G something, whatever, and just leaving it standing. Just phenomenal. It's
terrifying.
0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
2,000 horsepower, four motors, one on each wheel.
Yeah.
And then I kind of looked at the spec. It's I mean, presumably not at 250, 300. I think top limit is something like, they reckon unlimited is 340 miles an hour. But they're limited to about 200. But yeah, even though it's a
sorry, but limited to 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's a two-seat supercar, it's still got a range of about 400 miles, I think, or 250 or 300 miles on the electric range.
Yeah,
it's like pretty damn decent. Presumably not at that speed. I was thinking, wonder how long the batteries last when you're doing 200 miles an hour.
Like, that was the old thing with the Veyron, wasn't it? It would do 243 or whatever it was miles an hour.
400 kilometers per hour. That was the original. The head of Volkswagen, when they bought Bugatti, and said, "I want a car." He said, "There's only two things he wanted. He wanted 1,000 brake horsepower. Wanted 400 kilometers per hour." That was the money's no object.
That was the worry with because the size of the fuel tank is kind of balanced in such a way that the flat out at full top speed, the tires would explode after something like 12 minutes, but the fuel tank would only last for 10. So you couldn't actually get the tires to the point. Once you'd got up to speed going flat out, you couldn't get the tires to the point where they explode and become dangerous because you'd have run out of fuel beforehand. Yeah. I remember Dale Vince, who runs the energy provider Ecotricity. He was on Fully Charged probably 8-10 years ago, something like that, with his competition to the Tesla Roadster. So where the Roadster had one motor, he was using exactly the same Lotus Exige platform, but then two of those motors, one on each rear wheel. So it was basically just sort of went, it's like the Tesla, but it's just more.
Why not?
Yeah, and it was very kludged together. He had Robert Llewellyn in there, and he's going, yeah, we might do, power recovery on the braking and stuff, but that's for the coders to do that. We haven't quite got that yet. It goes forward.
Grab some headlines first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know whether that ever came to market. But...
I mean, this one was just essentially it's a concept car. They're building 150 and that's it.
Yeah,
but that's something like 5 million a pop, 2.5 million a pop.
Oh, and they'll have already sold all of those.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah. If I had the money, I'd buy one.
The thing is,
and a hoist to get out of it.
It's probably not even covered the cost of development at that point, though. That's
no, not at all.
The weirdness of the stage we're at with that kind of thing now. Yeah.
So that was the case with the Veyron when it first came out. Yeah. They didn't cover their full costs. I don't know if they have now with all the other ones.
They didn't even cover the production cost, never mind the R&D cost for it.
Yeah.
It would cost more to make it than they were selling them for.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And again, sold out.
Of course.
Yeah. Amazing amount of people. What about you, Jamie? What's been grabbing your attention?
I went to MCM Comic Con yesterday at the NEC in Birmingham. A little family day out. So it was a lovely little trip out back to the NEC. It basically took over the other half of it. It was halls 20 was the queuing hall to get into the other 3 halls that were opened up together. So it's a big L shape right down the other end compared to where Maker Central is. So yeah, it was just all opened up in one big expanse, which was absolutely ridiculous. It was huge, it was heaving. But it was a really fun day out. Lots and lots and lots to see. Just all of us just had our heads on a swivel. So yeah, it was very fun day out.
Ooh.
I used to do lingerie and swimwear in those halls back when I was working exhibitions. My head was on a swivel for
I was going to say, was it modelling or setting up? Or...
Weirdly, I was never short of staff on that event. Yeah.
Funny that. Yeah.
Trying to find wagon drivers to go do a lingerie show. It's yeah.
How about you, Andy? What's been grabbing your attention?
So apart from organising
tools,
apart from organising tools at the men's shed, I have kind of used that as a bit of impetus to try and start tidying the Tinkerage. Which has been it's not been a pleasant experience, but it needs to be done. Haven't got very far to do that. Not really very much. Watched a couple of films this week. Jigsaw, which is I think the last of the Saw series that kind of popped up on Netflix as I was browsing around. I thought, never seen any Saw ones. I'll watch that. It's like, yeah, good film in terms of a thriller, but the gore stuff. I mean, I don't enjoy the gore stuff, but it doesn't shock me either. It was actually quite a good story. If you ignore the gore. So yeah, if you take the story wise, it could have been 25 minutes. And last night with the family watched Jumanji, the new version of Jumanji, because I've only ever seen the original Jumanji with Robin Williams.
There was a new version.
Watched new version 2017 with The Rock, and I tell you what, it was brilliant. Absolutely enjoyed it. I was laughing out loud. Yeah,
that completely passed me by. I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah,
well, they've done 2
thoroughly. Oh, is there? Okay.
There was a second one as well.
Uh-huh.
What, since the 2017 one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Also,
a sequel. Yeah, a sequel to it. So it's The Rock. It's Jack Black. It's can't remember who else, but
Karen Gillan.
And
or Amy Pond, as we call her in this house.
Yeah. And I had his name a minute ago. Little fella.
He played Mouse. Yeah, I don't know his name.
It's so funny.
I tell you what, it's probably the best film I've watched in a long time. I kind of wasn't sure. We were like, right, what should we put on? Somebody else suggested Dunkirk, and it's like, I don't want to watch Dunkirk. I know how it ends. But it was like, literally was just browsing through. It was like, Jumanji. Let's watch Jumanji. And it was just like, didn't have any expectations of whether it was going to be good or bad. And it was brilliant. So if you've not watched Jumanji, go and watch it, because it was a blooming good laugh.
Yeah, and a really, really nice nod to the original as well. It's essentially an in-canon sequel. Yes. And then a sequel to it from then as well. So yeah, it's a
long time since I've seen the original. Very long time. And I think it's one of the few films I had watched twice, but again, it's even a long time since the second time I watched it, the original one. But I think, obviously, time does things to your mind, but I think I actually preferred it. I can't remember laughing out loud on the first one. Doesn't say
I think Robin Williams would have enjoyed it.
Yes. Yeah. It was. I'm not a fan of The Rock, but I don't dislike him either. The jungle one he did last year or a couple of years ago, where he's kind of going up to the jungle. I quite enjoyed that. That was quite funny. I think he's quite a good comedy actor.
Just so we don't spoil it for Alan, though, I think the fact that the way they tackled those characters,
it
was good.
Yeah, it was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Yeah, definitely go and watch that.
Yeah,
worth a shot.
Yeah.
And talking of Alan's, where can people find you, mate?
Can they find you?
Frankly, can they find me? Yeah, good luck. Where can they find me? I'm Alan Fisher on Facebook. Inside Alan on YouTube. Purely down to Brett referring to me as Inside Alan after the first Makers Central.
Yeah, because you were the underpinning.
Yeah. Well, once you've been spiffed, you've got to stick with that name, haven't you? So
absolutely,
yeah. I did change my name on YouTube to Inside Alan. As Andy discovered when he was looking for photos for the episode art, I'm not on Instagram. I've got an account.
Yeah, you've got zero posts. Yeah,
but you are also found quite often in the Fools of Tools Facebook group, which is a good place to be.
Yeah, that's the best place to spot me. Yeah,
which is generally a really good place to be anyway.
And if anyone wants help and advice, I'm there. So doesn't matter what it's about. I'll do my best.
There's always an ear.
That's it. Yeah.
That's something we appreciate about you, bud. Much like joining us tonight.
I'll do my best. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you. It's been a joy. Yeah. Yeah, I got to show off my Skull and Spade shirt as well. So
yeah, that's not before. See, again, once you've been spiffed, you've got to go and buy his merch.
All the merch. Yeah. Sod Steve, I'm not getting anything of his. Yeah.
If only that worked. If everyone that we kind of sort of we mentioned bought our merch. We haven't got any merch. But if they did, I mean, we for our shows we could afford to, couldn't we?
That's right. A recommendation for Jackman. Just see what happens. Yeah. Although the shipping might cost a bit.
Yeah. Right, on that note, we'll say goodbye to folks, and we will see them next week. And have a good week, folks.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah,
Bye.
all the best.